Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is Thursday, June 12th. This is episode 203. Matt, Roy, Chuck Miketinac. Chuck, how are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Did you know that Arizona State is your reigning Big 12 football champions?
I did know that. Actually, okay. I have like 5 T-shirts that of all this. They're all this. They're all the same.
Yes.
Because I got given 5 different T-shirts, or 5 of the same T-shirt.
Do you guys have a hand sign? Is it something like, is it, oh, you have to have the ring finger down.
Ring finger down.
Okay.
It's misconstrued often for other things that we're not going to talk about on the podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, here's my thing with like symbols and like hand signals and stuff. You can only do so many things with your hands. Like, 'cause there's so many repeats along the college football and college ranks. Like,
yes.
Like this is birds up. This is also, isn't this also like
hang loose?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hang, well, isn't it the Texas Tech one too, or Texas Tech is this?
Texas Tech is guns up.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there's just so many different.
Yes.
You can only do so much with your hands.
You can only do so much.
Like this.
And everything means something to somebody.
And you have to do something specific. Like for USC, fight on. You have to like slant your fingers a little bit. It's fight on. For like my school, the Fort Lewis Skyhawks, we were talons up, but you have to have your other 3 up a little bit. Like it's weird. It's super specific.
Very weird. There's a lot of weird stuff. This has gotten weird.
This has gotten weird?
Yes. I thought, isn't this like the most peaceful thing you can do, right?
Peace sign?
Now I'm hearing that this was originally meant as division. So, yeah, I know. So that's what I'm saying. Somebody can find something with something that's not right at some point.
Peace and love, bro.
Peace and love. Yep.
All right, let's get to the rundown here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, News 4 Fox SA. Download, review the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts if you're so inclined. 2 weeks away from the NBA draft, the rumor mill is swirling out of control for the San Antonio Spurs. I think we're literally less than 2 weeks. It's Wednesday, about 13 days from now. So, would they entertain trading out of number 2? There was some tweets and reports, take for what they're worth, that the Spurs could entertain trading out of number 2, potentially with the Sixers down to number 3, potentially with the Jazz, who were a little bit later in the draft. What might the return look like for that? And is it a foregone conclusion that the Spurs are going to draft Dylan Harper at number 2 if they stick and stay there? We'll talk about that. Plus, Kevin Durant watch is finally on. It's officially on. I mean, it's been on for a little while now. But the smoke has risen to catastrophic levels when it comes to Kevin Durant, and where there's smoke, there tends to be fire. So we'll talk about a little bit more about Kevin Durant there. And Project Marvel, we finally hear from San Antonio Spurs owner Peter J. Holt on Project Marvel and what the Spurs are willing to contribute to the building of a new downtown Spurs arena. That all part of Project Marvel, which is the $4 billion transformational downtown infrastructure plan. So we'll talk about all that. If there's time, we will get to the Cowboys, but I'm thinking there won't be any time. So let's talk about the Spurs and the rumor carousel, which continues to turn here. So today, Michael Scotto, whom I legitimately have never heard of until today, and is apparently a senior NBA insider of USA Today Sports, poured some fuel on the Spurs draft fire, saying, go ahead and throw that up there, Luis. He said, sources says the 76ers have engaged with the Spurs about potentially moving up to the number 2 pick. For now, the Sixers have zeroed in on 4 NBA draft prospects with the number 3 pick, including a private workout last week with VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey visiting Philadelphia next week. Then our guy Don Harris replied saying, there is a huge gap between Dylan Harper and the picks that'll go 3, 4, and 5. The Sixers can engage all they want. Unless they're willing to give up Maxey, this is laughable. What do you make of the smoke surrounding, could the Spurs trade out of number 2 now?
Well, I mean, I think, look, this time of year, it's logical to assume that everything is on the table, right? Teams are talking. They're talking about trying to acquire future assets. They're trying to acquire assets now. I don't think anything truly is off the table because conversations are being had. This is the time of year where teams build their roster. So what's it going to look like? I don't know to what degree that number 2 wouldn't be in play. It obviously depends on who you talk to, right? There's some people now saying that they don't believe that the number 2 guy in the draft is all that and a bag of potato chips. So, whether that's true or not, I don't have any idea. I don't know enough about these guys to be able to weigh in one way or the other at this point in their career. But I will say that if you can go out and get a really good star player and you feel like it might take the number 2 guy to go get him, I'd rather have an established veteran guy right now who's not super old playing here. I feel like the Spurs have enough young guys. It's time to start getting some maturity on this roster too.
I always find it fascinating when draft season comes around that people are taken aback that teams are picking up the phone. No crap. Like,
Right?
like if the Sixers are going to call the Spurs, what are the Spurs going to do? Let it ring? Send it to voicemail? No, you're going to pick up. And if they offer you Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid for number 2, you're going to be like, all right, maybe we'll figure it out. You know, you got to listen to them.
Right.
That's what common sense tells you. That's just how draft season works. You pick up the phone. Oh, okay. You guys want number 2? What are you willing to offer? What are you thinking about this player and this player? That's just how it works. Like the Spurs have probably talked to, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would be willing to guess they've talked to pretty much every team inside the top 10. Probably. Whether that's trading back from 2, up from 2 to 1, or up from 14 back into the top 10 to get a Con Knipple, to get a Malawak, to get whoever, insert prospect name here. I would be willing to bet that they've talked to almost everybody inside the lottery because that's just how these things work, right? Like,
Yes.
So I never understand the Sixers are calling about number 3 because they're targeting VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey. Guess what? Those 2 players are going to be there at 3 because if the Spurs draft at number 2, they're taking Dylan Harper. I would be 99.999% confident in that. Our guy Eric Salinas on Twitter was saying it. He's like, sources from my source, Mr. Common Sense says, of course they're picking up the damn phone. Like,
Right.
yeah, like that's just what you do. If someone's calling you, you have to accept and entertain the offer.
Right.
Or not accept the offer, but entertain
Yeah.
the possibility that something could happen.
Right. And I'm sure the Spurs have put out calls too because they're trying to feel out what everybody thinks about this, that, or the other. So this is what they do. This is one league, and you can't go outside the league to make deals.
As far as the legitimacy of the Sixers trading up to 2, I think Don is right in the sense of 3, 4, and 5, the guys who are going to go in those spots. There's a significant gap between them and Dylan Harper. Some people like Ace Bailey a lot. Some people like VJ Edgecombe a lot. But it's Cooper Flagg, and then it's Dylan Harper, and then it's everybody else. At least according to most people around the league and sources within the league. If the Sixers were planning to trade up to 2 to draft anybody else but Dylan Harper, that would be a really ill-advised move. Because why? You know what I mean? Cooper Flagg's going 1. Dylan Harper's going 2. You have the pick of the litter of everybody else. So unless you're trying to trade for Dylan Harper, which the Spurs aren't going to let you do, why are you calling in the first place? You know what I mean? So I agree with Don in the sense that the only way that they're going to give up number 2 is if you're giving up a Tyrese Maxey or if you're giving up someone of equal value like that.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is what we love about this time of year, right? We could spitball this till we're blue in the face. And some of the stories that are leaking are being leaked by agents because they're trying to create narratives or storylines or maybe some interest in their client publicly or gauge just what would people think if that were to happen, right? I mean, it's really, really hard to know at this point, but I'm here for it all. I think it's fun. And I know you do too. That's why we're talking about it.
Well, I think that the Sixers are just the one that doesn't make sense. If you want to trade down to 8 with I think it's the Nets at 8. If you want to trade down to, 5, 6, 7, 8, pick up a lot of picks in the future, and they get Dylan Harper, and you're still going to get someone like a Con Knipple or, insert person here, insert prospect here. That makes more sense to me than trading down to 3. Because if the only way you trade down to 3 is if the Sixers tell you we're not drafting Dylan Harper, and at that point, why are you trading down to 3? So it doesn't make sense, the Sixers aspect of this, unless everything we've heard is wrong about how the Spurs feel about Dylan Harper, which I'm 99% sure is not wrong. So that's how I feel.
I can't disagree with you. I think you've made a lot of valid points.
Meantime, another log on the fire of the Spurs draft plans is NBA reporter Kevin O'Connor, who I respect He said recently on Twitter, or in an article, no matter what the Spurs are signaling ahead of the draft, I'm convinced taking Dylan Harper I'm not convinced, taking Dylan Harper is plan A. How do you view the situation at this point? I've made my stance clear. I think that it's legitimate that they're going to draft Dylan Harper, and that's plan A, B, C, and D. Like that's what they want. They want to plan their future around Wemby, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and Steph Castle. Do you think that that's plan A?
I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, and I don't know that whatever their plan was last year, the year before, if it doesn't change a little bit this year. And we just went through a whole season where they made a move to get a star player, made a move to get a really good player, and sadly we didn't get a chance to see it all unfold because of the injuries at the end of the year. They've got enough of these prospects or guys that they're trying to grow up together, in my opinion, at this point. So what does it look like with who you already have, who you're bringing in, and what you have in terms of assets? If you can go get another really, really good player that may be a little bit older, a little bit more of a locker room galvanizer, or, just an established NBA player, would that be more beneficial in the here and the now than drafting another younger guy and waiting for him to grow up?
So
we don't know if Harper's going to be a shooter. I mean, the hope was that Castle would become a shooter, but his stats are basically the same as college.
Well, I mean, he shot a lot higher volume in the NBA than he did in college.
There's no question. But what I'm saying is that's not to preclude the fact that there's nothing to say that Castle can't become a great shooter as he gets older. But at what point do we have a lot of these guys that we're waiting to grow into their bodies, all of those things, and then try to go out and win some basketball games? I mean, that's what they're wrestling with, I know, day to day, and I'm sure they've got a plan. I'm just curious to see what it looks like going up to the draft and then immediately after the draft as well.
In today's NBA, a lot of this stems from Dylan Harper doesn't fit. And I don't know where people are getting that, because in today's NBA, it's positionless basketball. Look at the Thunder, who are now down 2-1. Credit to you for saying that this is going to be a hell of a series.
Even a broken watch is right twice a day. I did that to be the contrarian. So
contrarian worked out. Yes. My prediction of Thunder in 5 is already out the window. So anyway, look at what the Thunder are doing. Look at what teams like them and the Pacers and the Rockets, for example, have done in the last few years. You have guys who are interchangeable and can switch everything on defense. De'Aaron Fox, Steph Castle, Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, Wemby, Jeremy Sohan, all can play 1 through 4 or 5 through 2 or whatever you want the case to be. It's movable and adjustable pieces on the floor. Your chess pieces, turning your pawns from pawns into queens, basically. I don't know why Jordan's calling me. She knows I'm on the podcast. Oh. I don't get that argument of Dylan doesn't fit, so they're not going to draft Dylan. They're going to trade out of 2, because that's what a lot of these guys like Kevin are saying. In Mark Stein, who I saw saying it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to take Dylan Harper at 2 because he doesn't fit. That's where a lot of this stems from. Yeah, that's where a lot of this stems from, but it doesn't matter anymore. You can put Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, and De'Aaron Fox on the floor at the same time. You can put Dylan Harper and Stephen Castle and De'Aaron Fox on the floor at the same time. They don't have to be put into a cage of a position anymore.
Agree. I mean, it's not a 1 through 5 league anymore, right? Your standard point guard and your standard 5. I mean, even the Spurs have got Victor playing away from the basket most times, So that's different. I think if you're drafting at 2, you have to go draft the best player, regardless of what you think you have that is already on the roster that looks a lot like what you're trying to draft, right? Because, again, then you have options, and then, maybe you can then maybe you can trade with another team that is looking for something that you have, and then maybe you can get back something, obviously, that you don't have. So, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see what this all looks like as we move forward, because, we don't know, other than Victor, how many of these guys on the roster as it currently stands are truly untradeable. Is Stephon Castle truly untradeable at this point? Or is he an asset that you could use or dangle in front of somebody in order to get somebody else or maybe another draft pick. I have no idea. I have no idea what they're thinking on.
With a lot of that, though, it's Stephen Castle is viewed as future A, future piece B behind future piece A, which is Wemby, and Dylan Harper would be viewed as future piece 3 or future piece C along with those other two. And it's going to take a, Devin Booker-esque player or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander-esque player to get those guys off of this team at that point. Because Stephen Castle is your rookie of the year. Wemby's a generational, as much as I hate the term, generational prospect. And Dylan Harper is one of those guys that is building a lot of steam towards being a really, really good NBA player for the next 15 years.
Well, we do know this. The Spurs, once again, are holding all the cards. They will be shrewd in their moves. And if teams want what they have, which are those assets in the draft picks, they're going to have to give up something in order to get them. And they're going to have to give up something really enticing and a really good player or players to make something like that happen. That's how they end up with De'Aaron Fox.
Here's the thing I thought was interesting as well today is, so we'll get to the interview here with Peter J. Holt in a second, but one thing that he said in that interview regarding the team building thing was Don was asking about why didn't you sit up there, because every time a Holt sits up there, you guys get the number 1 pick in the lottery. And he was like, well, I think Mitch did a good job, but to be honest, we don't plan on picking the lottery anymore. And so I thought that was very telling of where this team's mindset is in the coming years.
Glad to hear it.
We don't, right? They don't want it. They had to pick in the lottery for years. That's the only way to build your team now. You can't just look what the Suns did. Look what the Brooklyn Nets did. They tore down their teams, traded all of their young assets, all of their draft picks to be mediocre at best.
Yes.
You have to build your big 3 internally now. Look at what the Thunder have done. Look at what Indiana has done. Indiana obviously traded for Tyrese Halliburton, but he was a young player who you traded for.
Got some nice young pieces.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you have to build mainly through the draft and supplement with free agency, whether that is a star or whether that's a role player. I think it's very encouraging, and I didn't cut the bite, I probably should have, that you're hearing from the CEO and chairman of the San Antonio Spurs in sports and entertainment that they don't plan on being in the lottery anymore. I think that's really positive to hear for Spurs fans.
Amen.
And to not pick in the lottery anymore, you might need a superstar by the name of Kevin Durant. Everyone and their mother is linked to KD at this point. Mm-hmm. But no one more strongly than the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs have been linked in more ways than one by more than one person, by probably dozens of people at this point to each other. At this point, what do you think of the situation? Because I know when we talked about it last Thursday, it was like, okay, there's some smoke here. Is there a fire, or is it just like an ember that is going to be blown out? It seems like it's turning into a billowing fire at this point.
Okay, for Durant to come here?
Yes, for Durant to come here.
Okay, I won't go that far because, again, you got to make the numbers work. And then the thought of having to possibly extend Kevin Durant, I don't know that makes really good business sense at this point, because he's making $54 million, right? A year, roughly, at age 36.
Yeah, 54.7 this year.
So that's quite a contract that somebody's going to have to take on. Granted, they only have to take it on for a year, but it's still $54 million for one guy. And he's 36 years old. So, what's it going to take to get him? I don't think it's going to take, I shouldn't say that, because, you're still talking about giving up all the Spurs' highest paid guys are probably going to have to go. Now, if, maybe they restructure for his contract and then give him another year or whatever to be able to make the numbers work better. I don't know how all this stuff is going to end up playing out, but I think, to me, as we sit here, although I would really like to have him if he doesn't cost a lot of money, if you could find a way to somehow make the numbers work, I just don't know that it makes a lot of sense at the end of the day.
I think it makes sense, but it depends on the line of thinking. My line of thinking here is you get a player to raise your floor over the next 3 years, and this is the last chance he's going to have to win a championship. And why wouldn't he hitch his wagon to a young and up and coming team like that? Why would you rather hitch your wagon to a New York Knicks franchise who doesn't even know who their head coach is right now and fired their head coach without even having a plan to replace him. Why would you want to hitch your wagon to a Rockets team that hasn't done any sort of winning since the 90s?
Well, they had a pretty good year last year, and they got a pretty good roster right now.
I mean that's a 1 year sample size.
I mean, you're assuming that the Spurs would be an instant title contender with Kevin Durant on the roster?
I'm assuming that they will be a favorite to win at least one playoff series.
Okay.
That would be my... I would be disappointed if you acquire Kevin Durant for a Devin Vassell and a Harrison Barnes and you do not make at least win one playoff series. That would be my expectation.
You know, I'd really like to have him here. I mean, you just look at the stats. I mean, the dude is still shooting over 50% from the field at his position, and he's shooting 43% from three. I mean, the guy is a scoring marvel.
Yeah, he's a...
Right.
I see what you did there. He's a...
Sorry, it was...
he's
I don't know where my mind could have possibly gone with
He's
that.
a 50, 40, 90 guy, and there's very few of those in NBA history. He's a 50% field goal shooter, he's a 40% three-point shooter, and he's a 90% free throw shooter. You don't have a lot of those. If I would be willing to say on the record that he is a pure top 3 scorer of the basketball in NBA history. Like, if you just need someone to go get you a bucket, there's probably not a lot of guys in NBA history that I would rather over Kevin Durant. He is a pure bucket getter. That's what he does.
Amen.
And what do the Spurs need? Pure bucket getters. They need some defense, yeah. They need some shooting, yeah. Guess what? He's a 43% three-point shooter. They need scoring. Guess what? He scored 26 points a game last year. He's going to take up minutes. He's going to take up minutes away from young guys. But if the young guys that you're trading are, let's just say, Jeremy and Devin, those are minutes that are now available for Kevin Durant anyway. He's not going to be taking away minutes from Dylan Harper. He's not going to be taking away minutes from De'Aaron Fox or from Steph Castle. You're going to have him and Wemby on the floor at the same time, most likely. Probably Wemby at the 5 and KD at the 4. So the fact of the matter is, I think that trading for him, as long as it's not an exorbitant cost, I think the benefits really outweigh what could potentially hurt this team.
I mean, you got me there. I'm with you. I don't like the idea of extending.
I mean, you would have to, the thing there is you would have to take him 2 years, I think it's 2 years, $122 million. So you're paying for his age 37, 38, and 39 seasons. This year would be 54.7. I think the next one was 58, and the next one's 62, or something like that. It's close. But that works for the Spurs timeline, in theory. You're going to be extending De'Aaron Fox, most likely, at a 4-year, $229 million, which is about $57 million a year guaranteed. I don't know that off the top of my head. I just did the math the other day, so don't think I'm some sort of mathematician here.
Trust me, I don't.
Actually, I was good at math when I was a kid, not so much anymore. Wemby is going to be extended, and depending on the escalators that he gets, like, you know, the all NBA teams, the all defense, all those things, his price is going to be his max rookie extension, which is not the super max that we're all thinking he's going to get in a few years. The max rookie extension he can get, I believe, is around $42 million. So you couple those 3 salaries, and you're still under the second apron, and so you can still make moves. And you're only doing that for one season, which would be KD's last season. So if you need to trade him, you could trade him, in theory. But even if you don't trade him and you have KD for 3 years, you're only going to have that max salary for one season, which, according to the NBA's salary cap and how everything works now, doesn't really take you down, doesn't really hamper you in the future. Plus, when you get rid of KD's contract at that point after 3 years, then you have to pay Steph Castle his rookie deal. Then after that, you're going to have to pay Dylan Harper his rookie deal, hoping that everything plays out. So it works with the money timeline of it. Are the Spurs willing to invest in a 37-year-old wing? That's the real question. Do they want a 37-year-old wing over a Devin Vassell, who's a 24-year-old wing and costs half as much and has team control for 4 more years?
Right.
They loved Evan. I think as fans and as media, we're a bit more critical of him than than they are. They see potential, obviously, in Devin Vassell, but I think with Devin Vassell, you're going to have to get a change of mindset from him. Are you going to try and be Michael Jordan every night, or are you going to be Chris Middleton every night? That's what they have to get out of him.
A lot of this, too, hinges on what do other teams think of the Spurs players, right? I mean, if there's somebody out there that really likes Devin Vassell's game, or, name the guy on the team. That's what this comes down to, too. So we'll see how it ends up going.
Let me ask
I don't know exactly what the thought process is in terms of how the league looks at some of their players.
Would you rather have KD for 3 years or Devin Vassell for 3 years? Straight up.
I'd rather have Durant, but I don't know that. How many people would you find out there that would take Devin? I mean, that's
no one really.
That's not really.
Well, that's
not fair, right?
But that's what you're asking at this point, right? Like, the trade is going to be something like Devin Vassell and KJ, or and Harrison Barnes, or Devin Vassell and Jeremy Sohan and somebody else, and a first-round pick, which is likely 14 for Kevin Durant. The only real confusion there is, do you want a young, potentially rising player in Devin Vassell, or an older, potentially declining player in Kevin Durant, who's making a lot more money?
Right.
So that's what the dichotomy there in that trade
and
is.
then Phoenix, if you're looking to get what they're looking for to get back, why would they want a player that wants to have the ball in his hands when they've already got 3 of those guys right now trying to move one of them?
Yeah, it's like we've said, the Suns have a lot of issues.
Yes, they do. But
I think I would rather have 3 years of KD, mainly because he helps you in a variety of ways, but he also doesn't. I'm trying to think of how to say this. You can't have all the young guys growing up together. There needs to be an adult, which is why Chris Paul was so important last season, because you have this entire young roster. Harrison Barnes, equally as important last year, I would argue. You have all these young guys who don't know how to play in the NBA. Now you have somebody on the roster that does. Devin Vassell and Kevin Durant would be great together because Devin could learn from Kevin Durant. How did you do it? Same with Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes, I think his feel and his impact on the team was so much beyond what was on the court. It was what happened in the locker room, conducting yourself, and how to do all those things. And I think that really helped Devin as well. But when you have a KD, when you replace Devin with a KD, you're getting that, plus you're getting a better player.
I agree. We need more adults here.
I mean,
that looks like, if it's Durant or somebody else,
I mean,
I'm all for it.
I would rather have Steph and Dylan Harper and Wemby learning from KD and De'Aaron Fox than I would Dylan Harper, Castle, Vassell, and Wemby learning just from Fox. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
So
I do. I'm with you.
So anyway, let's go to Project Marvel here. Don got an interview this morning with Peter J. Holt, which is why he is not here today. The Spurs have finally started their media blitz of sorts, of trying to, get people on their side when it comes to approving the infrastructure bond and the venue tax that will be raising on the county level. So one of the biggest questions that we've all had is, what are the Spurs contributing to this? We know the 5 sources of income for a Spurs arena, which, just to sum it up, is Spurs, private equity, leases and revenue generation from future developments, the venue tax, and then whatever the city is going to contribute as well, and the project finance zone that goes into the city portion of it. We haven't heard what the numbers are, though. We don't know who's going to be paying for what, how much everyone's going to be contributing. So here's what the controlling partner, Peter J. Holt, said in an interview with Don Harris this morning.
Talk about $1.5 billion,
sure,
right? You got the city and the county and you guys. If everybody paid a third, it'd be $500 million to you guys. To be clear, you guys are prepared to put up hundreds of millions of dollars to make this happen.
Absolutely, yeah. We don't know if the arena will cost $1.5 billion. We don't know if it'll cost $1. If you look out there at the arenas that have been built in the last 10 years, the dollar figures are all over the place, from $700 million to $3 billion, and so we want to ensure that there is a arena that is the absolute best for our fans. We have the best fans in San Antonio, and so building a space where that can continue to thrive, that San Antonio Spurs fans and concert goers and people of the community can be really proud of, hey, a space that belongs to us, that's for us, that the public owns and the Spurs make great, then I think that's what we're going to do. And the Spurs are absolutely willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars as part of the partnership to ensure that's successful.
So that was the second interview he did this week about the potential downtown arena. He also did one with us and with other media at Commissioner's Court. Commissioner's Court approving, let me think of how to put this, approving the verbiage to be sent to the comptroller that will then be sent to the ballot of raising the venue tax 1.75% to 2%, which will raise an extra $60 million. Again, the venue tax is a tourist tax basically at the county level, hot tax and rental cars. So what he sounded like to me is very much what Ballmer did with the Inuit Dome in LA. We want something that is completely immersive to fans, that is new school, that brings the fan experience to an entirely new level. And I get that, and I like it. But Steve Ballmer wrote a $2 billion check. They're not going to be doing that. And the other thing we learned in that soundbite is that the number, we're getting closer to a specification on the number that the Spurs are going to contribute, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not going to get up to $1 billion. They don't have the deep pockets like Steve Ballmer has. But do you think it's enough if they put up, let's just say, $500 million into a $1.5 billion project?
Well, I mean, I'm not here to judge on how much they should put in, but if that would be the number, $500 million, that would be probably double what I think the numbers that we're hearing. So, there's a long way to go in all this. I'm curious somewhat of the urgency to get all of this on the November ballot when there's so many moving parts, when there's so many things that we don't know about it, and then there's going to be the public ask for tax money.
I have a theory about that, about why they're kind of hurrying to get this on. I think they're expecting some sort of failure. If you fail, then the next chance, if you fail like on the bond measure, let's just say, on the infrastructure bond, which is $250 million of public money that would go towards infrastructure in some other place of the city, but they're directing it more towards the downtown area. I think that they're expecting some failure in some aspect of this. Their lease at I want to keep wanting to call it the AT&T Center, at the Frostbank Center, is until 2032, I believe. I believe it was a 30-year lease, and they opened in 2002. This stadium, there isn't going to be built for at least ready to be open for at least 3 years, no matter what. And so I think they're building in some contingency areas there where, okay, if the bond measure fails, then we can't do the infrastructure for another at least 5 months, no matter what happens with this, with the arena and how much the arena is going to end up costing, which they also don't know yet what the actual cost of this arena is. They're building in contingencies for, okay, what if this project is delayed by a couple of months? What if something goes wrong? What if it comes in over budget? What if we do all these things? I think there's enough time there in the 6 years that they have the lease still going, which is why they're trying to get this, let's go as fast as possible. So if we do hit a snag, we still have time.
Well, I mean, I think the lease really isn't an issue because their buyout isn't very much by NBA standards.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. It's some of this, the timeline is, again, it's just fascinating to see what's already started to happen. I mean, the Texas Institute of the Institute of Texan Cultures.
Yeah, that's coming down. It's being destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if they know something we don't on some levels.
Well, I mean, that also needed. I know there's a lot of people that didn't want that destroyed, but that building was asbestos ridden and in an eyesore anyway. Like, even if they're not going to put a Spurs arena there, that building had to come down so they could put something else there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go there either. I'm just, I don't know. It's all going to be very interesting to see how this progresses and moves forward, because the city has a lot of challenges too in all this, right? There are going to be some other issues that are coming up this summer that are going to be, splash front page newsy items, and to try to get the developing and the all the things that you need to do in order to pull something like this off, all the mechanisms of government, the ask of the taxpayers, all of these things. I mean, it's boom, 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 and it just feels like it's coming at breakneck speed, whether you want it or not, kind of like drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest hurdle that everybody on this project and on the new arena have to jump over is convincing taxpayers to vote for it. We saw both the UTSA polls where voters were lukewarm at best. In fact, there was more people not willing to vote for it than willing to vote for it in those two polls, which was a very small sample size. Between both the polls, I believe it was less than 4,000 people. So I get it. But that's their biggest hurdle, is convincing people to vote for the infrastructure bond, which is general revenue from the city, general taxes from the city, and the venue tax, which is mainly tourism. So as long as they get those two things passed, that's a huge hurdle, but they're going to have to try and do that over the next few months. They're also going to have to, in order to do that, give specifics. The taxpayer is going to need to know how much city money, how much Spurs money, how much venue tax money, what pockets of money are you guys using to pay for this?
Do you find it interesting that we don't know that?
No.
And this is this far down the road?
Well, I do know. I do find it interesting. I would have assumed, because I'm no developer. I'm no, I'm not a politician or anything like that. I don't know how long that takes to get that estimate of exactly how much this is going to cost the architect to see exactly what this building is going to look like and how much the building is going to cost, how much the infrastructure around it is going to cost. I'm not smart enough to know how long that takes. So I believe Holt said in his interview the other day that within the next 60 days, they should have a pretty good idea of specifications of who's going to be paying for what and how much this building's going to cost, because we keep hearing between 1.3 and 1.5. But I do think that until those numbers come out, there is going to be a lot of criticism of this project, and the public view of the project is not going to get better until those numbers come out.
Well said.
At least that's my opinion.
I mean, no, I think you're right. The other side of this is they tried to get this on the ballot that we just went to, or the vote that we just went to last weekend on the mayoral ticket. They tried to get all this stuff there. And there wasn't a single person running for office that wanted to have this as an issue. It was already, I think, a bit of a challenge for both candidates on the mayoral side, because it's hard to pick a side one way or the other when you don't know what it is that you're supposed to be championing.
Yeah, and there's a legitimate concern from people in San Antonio, and I get that everybody who's listening to this is like, that isn't from San Antonio. This is way over your head, or not over your head, but it doesn't concern you. So I appreciate everybody listening, if you're still listening. But from the San Antonio side, those candidates until this week weren't even. I mean, Gina Ortiz-Jones, who's going to be the new mayor, hadn't even been briefed yet. Like, she has got a lot of catching up to do over the next few months too. So it's going to be interesting exactly how this goes through. But there's a lot of arguments on the con side that have legitimate legs. Mm-hmm. Especially the fact that the city, as of last month, was projecting a deficit in the next 2 years of $240 million. You have to come up with that money somewhere. If you're spending $250 million on infrastructure, I think I know where one could take care of the other. You know what I mean? Like, you can't spend like the project finance zone. You can't spend that money on the deficit. That money can't go there, just because of the way that project finance zone works. But you can spend the infrastructure money, I believe, on the deficit. And if people would rather have, those jobs programs and other programs around the city that they're paying $240 million for, which one would you rather have? So they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with that deficit and potential deficit, and you're going to have to figure out how to sell this to fans. So,
yeah,
or sell this to taxpayers.
The one thing that the Spurs have going for them, right or wrong, is that in the last 4 or 5 years, every bond thing that's been thrown to the taxpayer here in San Antonio is passed with flying colors.
One thing's for sure, they know how to get a bond passed.
So, yeah, they have that going for them. So if it doesn't, it would be, in the short term, historic if something like this got voted down.
Well, I was right. We didn't have time for Cowboys. Sorry. Remember,
That's too bad because dude, I wanted to shout you out. I thought what you got with Sam Williams the other day was, to me, headline grabbing. I don't know. I know you're sitting on it because you're the only one that has it, but I look forward to that this weekend.
Full piece coming up Sunday 9:30 on Max Sports on Sam Williams and his change of view in life and how the injury changed his entire outlook on life. So that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will be back on Monday. I need to get some outro music or something to play. That's my next goal. Anyway, see you then.